Greetings and salutations, my dear audience. This is Joe St. Egg Benedictus coming at you with a short thought or encouragement or perhaps inspiration. I want to give a shout out to my pal Mike, to all the visionaries and mystics out there. Thank you for joining me. This season, I lost somebody who was very close to me. And my friend is someone I met a long time ago, about 10 years ago or so, maybe a dozen years ago or so. And his father was kind of like a pastor, but not ordained. He was one who served on the mission field. He worked tirelessly for years, almost 3 decades, with Charles Stanley in Atlanta in Stanley's organization until he retired. And in his retirement, he basically served our community. He was extremely active in our community with several nonprofits, as well as the lives of his children and grandchildren, and his son, good friend of mine. And he would often come to our church, even though he wasn't a member of our church. He had this way of coming because he loved visiting churches. He loved uh, building relationships with people, and especially pastors and other church leaders. And considering that I was his son's good friend, he often made time to be with me, and we did ministries together. We did all kinds of things together. In 2013, when my father had passed away, he really made an effort to spend time with me and really call me at times, and there were times when I would call him, and he really took his place as a spiritual father to me. He was extremely important. And I realized that not many people have spiritual fathers or spiritual mothers. And so, my encouragement and inspiration to you today is for you to think about people in your life that might serve as a mentor or spiritual father or spiritual mother. Or, if you don't have one, to think critically about and intentionally about making time to seek people out. In his book Replenish, the author Lance Witt writes that in the clergy world, at least, or at least for ministers, 71% of ministers do not have a close friend or confidant, or a mentor. 71%, that's 7 out of every 10 ministers, do not have one close friend, confidant, or mentor. Now, I'm not sure where that statistic came from. It is again from this book Replenish from Lance Witt. And I didn't see a citation for the source, although he had several statistics that he cobbled together through Barna and Pew Research. But if we can think about the lives of ministers in people's lives or in their community, and 7 out of 10 do not have a friend or a mentor, then you can just imagine how lonely many people are in our world today who may not have that kind of access to community as do many ministers. And if ministers are that lonely, then you can only imagine how lonely people might be. I was listening to a sermon from 1979, a marriage seminar from the pastor that I grew up with in my home church in New York, or my parents' home church, and it was my home church until I moved. And he was talking about startling statistics of marriage back then, and this was again 1979, and how lonely people are back then. And we see just how much loneliness is multiplied even now within our world of physical and relational distancing. Even now, after COVID, as COVID numbers are coming down, people are still distant. Acquaintances have moved into the category of strangers. Many friends have now moved into the category of acquaintances. And for many people, the disruption over the last 2 years have left people isolated and alone. And so my encouragement to you is to really consider and to be intentional about praying for God to bring you a mentor into your life, or a spiritual father or a spiritual mother. What kind of people might fill that need? Well, let's just go down the list of the different categories of people that you might seek out in your life or pray for God to bring in your life. Of course, we have friends. We have friends, yes, but what we really need at times are spiritual friends. These are our equals or colleagues or people in our life that we can talk to about spiritual things, about prayer, about hindrances in prayer, or perhaps disruptions or things that get in the way of our relationships with one another or with God. I have a lot of friends, but I have only a few spiritual friends. Several come to mind. One is a friend that I've had since I was in high school, and we are spiritual friends. When we call each other, we don't just talk about our families or ask how the kids are doing. We talk about deep things, about things that stir us or unsettle us or settle us. The next category might be a spiritual director or a life coach. This is a person who walks alongside you and doesn't tell you what to do. It's not a therapist or a counselor, although therapists or counselors are good. But spiritual directors or life coaches ask questions to get you to think more intentionally about your goals and your objectives in your life. A spiritual director specifically helps guide the conversation in trying to figure out ways that you can connect with God that are fruitful, and to highlight or to draw out areas in your life where the Holy Spirit is at work. The next category of people is that of mentor. I have several mentors, and I have mentors in different areas of my life. I have life mentors, people who have mentored me in my life. For instance, my father-in-law has been a mentor in many ways, but I also have professional mentors, mentors in the ministry. I have at least 3 or 4 mentors in ministry who are retired ministers. Some are ordained, some are not, but that have taught me the craft and have taught me how to live into my calling or my vocation as a minister more effectively. And are people that I can call anytime when I'm discouraged or I feel like I'm confronting issues or or struggles that I need clarity on, and those mentors have been extremely important in my life. I look at my ministry, and I think about, and if you were to look at my ministry in parts, I can tell you which mentor has shaped which aspect of that ministry. I mean, it's I've been so intentional about surrounding myself with mentors and with uh, people in my life that have informed and have formed my faith, that I can almost go through a day, if I were to sketch out a day, and label each movement of my day, be it prayer or writing cards to parishioners or making phone calls or talking with committees. I mean, I can point to specific mentors that have informed how I go about every aspect of my life almost. So that's been very important. And then lastly, the group that I started off with this video, which is our spiritual fathers and mothers. A spiritual father really is different than a mentor, because I think mentors work on the mechanics of faith and vocation or a profession. And we all need, not all of us are ministers, but all of us need in our profession mentors, or we might be an apprentice or whatnot. And mentors work on the mechanics of things. What spiritual fathers and spiritual mothers do is really provide a more of a support or a nurturing relationship. As I mentioned, my friend's father, who I consider one of my spiritual fathers, um, was a person who would spend time with me just because he wanted to spend time with me. He was sincere. He wasn't high maintenance or needy. He wasn't looking to find a way or a place in the church. He already knew and was secure in his calling and his relationship, and he basically treated me like a son. Again, his son's friend. I was his son's friend, but I didn't see how he related to me differently than he would his own son or sons. He has several sons. And when I lost my dad in 2013, and he called and he made a more intentional effort to be present, it was very clear that he would often do things with the church or with me in ministry, or even come to our Bible studies and just hang out, even though again he wasn't a member of my church. And I could tell just under the surface that he was there for Bible study, but he was really there just because he loved being with people, and he loved spending time with people, and he loved spending time with people he loved. And I always had felt that he had a love for me and his family and for my family. And he would call certain times of the day, and usually it was at the time that I needed. It was at the time that I needed a phone call the most, and he'd say, "Yeah, just wanted to call you and encourage you. I know being a pastor is such hard work," and this is basically what he'd say. He said, "I just felt like the Holy Spirit just wanted me to call you today and encourage you, and that's exactly what I needed." That's what a spiritual father or a spiritual mother does. And I probably have more spiritual mothers than I do spiritual fathers. I would say that this gentleman, who is probably the closest thing I have to a spiritual father. I have another person that I call my spiritual grandfather. He's an older gentleman. He's close to 90, and he's more of a grandfather figure, and his wife is more of a grandmother figure to my family and I. And he's more of a spiritual grandfather, which the difference is only a matter of degrees. But when you think about people in your life, my prayer for you is that you have these important people in your life. No one should ever go it alone. And I can think about how some people, even in YouTube universe that I've never met, have helped inspire me. And so you never know where God is going to encourage us and weave us together and create a community that we can lean into and lean on, and even inspire. When you open your eyes and you pray for that spiritual vision, that God will give you a vision to see the people around you, and encourage you to make an intentional effort to find a mentor, to find a spiritual father or mother or grandfather or grandmother in your church, or in your circle of friends, or in your sphere of friends. Maybe have a conversation with a very close friend to move into a relationship that is more of a spiritual friendship, so that you can go deeper. That's my encouragement to you. And as I move into a time of my season in my time over the next few weeks, and grieve the loss of my spiritual father, I hope that you consider who might in your life be to serve might be that person, or serve that person as well. Thank you for your time. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time.